Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the Live with Main Street. My name is Anna, and I've got my colleagues, Liz, Jim, and Cynthia. We are expanding by the numbers, so excited to have you here. Hi, guys and gals.
Hi.
Hey. All right, so what are we talking about today? Live with Main Street, we are today is November 30th, almost into the last month of the year. So we want to talk about tips and tricks we've got in our pockets to share with you about what are some of the last minute kind of things you can work on to make sure that you finish 2018 very strong as it relates to your finances. So each of us is going to share a little bit with you. So Liz, you want to get started first?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. Today, I want to talk to you about the importance of checking in on your credit report and your credit scores. A lot of people set reminders on their calendar. It tends to be toward year end, whether you check your credit reports, all of them, all three bureaus, once a year. Some people stagger them and check your credit report, one of them every 4 months, right? So you're never too surprised about what's on there. But I'm really excited to talk to you today because just 2 days ago, I sat in on a webinar with a credit expert that was giving us some updates that have happened in the world of credit freezing and fraud reporting. And so the first thing that I want to share with you is that as far as credit freezes go, the thought there is that you're making it available that you can't open any new accounts at all. You're saying, I don't see myself getting any additional loans, taking out any debt. So I'm really just trying to get my credit frozen and solid. So they've just made that available. New laws went into place September 21st, that now for anyone under age 16 or incapacitated, the guardian or the parent can actually go ahead and place a credit freeze on their report. So that's definitely good news. Just this morning, did anyone else get the email about Marriott and the fraud that's occurring? I just got an email that they just got breached as of this morning. So I know it's something we're all concerned about, so it's important that we know where these credit freezes stand. Also, a big update is now they are free. I know when this was happening last year, some of the bureaus would charge you some money depending on what state that you were in. And the new laws also say that it has to take place within 1 business day, your ability to freeze your report, and it has to thaw within 1 hour, which is a really big one for anyone that says, oh God, I forgot that I froze it and I'm standing there at the car dealership and it used to take days for it to thaw or unfreeze, as they say. So that's the exciting news on the front of freezing and unfreezing. And as far as fraud alerts go, I wrote down some notes actually so I could update everyone. These are the ones where you don't necessarily want your report frozen, but you want a company to be able to have to reach out to you and confirm that, yes, you are trying to apply for new credit, right? Or new debt. So for this one, no longer does it last 90 days. It's actually going to last an entire year. So that really helps for the inconsistency and the inconvenience of constantly having to place that fraud report. It's also worth noting that you don't have to be a victim in order to do this. You don't have to say, I had an event happen, now am I eligible for it? You can just choose to place a fraud report. And the last thing is when you do that, you actually only have to tell one of the bureaus, and it's now their responsibility to tell the other 2. So it really saves you some time. It gets the data out there right away. And when that happens, you're going to get free reports from all 3 bureaus. So it seems like there's really been some progress made in this field and in this front. And so as we get into year-end planning and we start thinking about what are the best ways to protect you and your family and how is 2018 looking, you can really think this through. Are either of those 2 options, available for you and your family?
Fantastic. I love that idea. So speaking of reports, I want to go next because it kind of ties into credit report, board report. So I'd like to propose something called sitting down for a 30-minute family report card. You guys might know me by my famous or infamous Money Date show that I hold every Wednesday at 6 o'clock Pacific. And the idea with this sitting down with your family report card is to give yourself a check-in point to kind of see where you are. How have you done so far for the 2018? Have you reached your financial goals? If you had a plan to pay off your debts, have you been going strong with that plan or did you derail? How are you doing with your spending? right? Could you do better next year? Or, you know, maybe you've accomplished that goal. And so the idea is that it shouldn't take long. It's really could be just a quick conversation, right? Sitting down and focusing on your finances. Perhaps you need to get together with your financial planner by the end of the year or talk to your accountant. But these are the things that you need to be checking off your list to make sure that you've given yourself a check-in point before the calendar year is over, and you could still probably work on some of these items. The other important thing, and we'll talk about this later on in our December, in month of December, but setting goals for 2019, you need to think about that now, not when January 1 comes along, because many of us tend to say, oh, New Year's resolutions, here are the things I'm going to do. Start thinking about what your goals and what you're trying to accomplish in 2019. So that's my year-end planning checklist item. Cynthia, you've got something for us too?
I do. I'd like to talk about taking your RMD as well as tax loss selling. So consider this your reminder to make sure you've taken your required minimum distribution for the year, especially if you have multiple IRAs or retirement accounts. Generally, this will start when you hit 70 and a half, and you'll make withdrawals from your IRA or retirement plan account at that point. Now, if you don't take the distribution, then there's a 50% penalty on the amount that you should have taken. So you definitely want to make sure that you do this now and make sure you check all of your accounts to make sure that this has been taken. Now, this is a minimum withdrawal, so you could take out more, but remember that any withdrawal is taxed as ordinary income. One option to offset that tax for those who normally gift to charity is to do a qualified charitable distribution for some or all of your required minimum distribution. Now, when making this distribution, you'll specify a qualified charity, and you can gift up to $100,000. You won't get a charitable deduction for the gift, but you'll also won't be taxed ordinary income on the distribution. Now, lastly, don't forget to take the required minimum distribution on inherited IRAs, inherited retirement plans, including inherited Roth IRAs. Now, secondly, I wanted to talk to you about tax loss selling. Take a look at your unrealized gain loss report. Are there positions in your portfolio that have a loss? If so, you can consider selling the ones with a significant loss for a tax loss. If you have multiple lots, meaning multiple dates that you've purchased the position, you could specify to sell just those lots that have a loss. This capital loss can be netted against capital gains you may have taken over the year. And any capital losses remaining, $3,000 of it can be used to reduce taxable income. Additional capital losses after that can be carried over to following years. Just remember that there are wash sale rules. So if you sell a stock for a loss, remember that you are not allowed to buy a substantially identical security within a 30-day period before or after the sale of that particular stock. If that happens, the IRS will disallow a tax deduction, and the amount of the loss is added to the cost basis of the new security. So be sure to follow your wash sale rules. Regardless, the tax loss selling should be done throughout the year. But with the recent drop in the market, a tax loss is an asset that you can use to help reduce your taxes. So those are my 2 tips for you.
Sounds good. All right, we're gonna give Jim an opportunity to add a couple more. Hi, Jim.
Hi there. Now I'm on unmuted, and that's a dangerous thing for Jim to be unmuted. I want to comment on what all of our other advisors have said so far, Anna. Liz talked very well about the credit report and the freeze. And I'm one of the people that, of course, has been caught up in Marriott. I have done Home Depot. I've done Target, OPM. Wherever there's been a major hack, unfortunately, myself and my family have been involved. And I've always been reluctant, though. I did credit monitoring in the past, but I never done a credit freeze because too often I was doing something where I wanted to purchase something and they're going to check my credit, and I didn't want to go through this long hassle of thawing. So Liz, that is great information on a 1-hour thaw, because now with the latest thing from Marriott, I'm going to do a credit freeze knowing that I can thaw in an hour. So thank you very much for that, because you're helping change people's ideas and thoughts about what their responses should be to their information maybe being hacked. Secondly, Anna, on the family report, wonderful idea. And one of the strategies that I'm recommending people do this year is start looking and gathering information on their expenses before the end of the year. So at the end of the year or soon thereafter, they know what they've spent in all the areas. Now, Mint.com has always been a good source, or Quicken, or you can do it manually if you put most of your thing on the credit cards or online banking. Most of that information is readily available. Yes, it takes some time, but it helps you budget for the next year and have a discussion with your significant other about do we need to do anything different? What do we want to achieve? Do we need to do more debt reduction? Do we need to do more savings? You know, what's going to be our plan for the year? So trying to get a handle on the expense calculations ahead of time is going to help you when it comes time for that family report. One of the things that I've been working on and a blog I've got coming up pretty soon is a end of year check chart where people in different points in their lives, whether it's a younger worker, an older worker, a high income younger worker, a high income older worker, or semi-retired or retired people, what should they be checking on at the end of the year? And I'm going to be doing that in a future blog to remind people that some of the things we need to, every status of where we're at as income earners, we need to do these things at the end of the year. And some of them, like don't forget your required minimum distribution, only applies to people 70 and a half and older. And one of the things that Cynthia reminded me of is, how do you know that you took that? Some of us that are older have a hard time remembering whether we've done certain things like taking our required minimum distribution. There's something on an investment account called a transaction register. Just go to your transaction register, look at all the transactions for a year, and you can see that $27,500 distribution staring you in the face, and you say, ah, good, I've made it. And that happened to me the other day when I thought I had one account and I wasn't sure whether I'd take the distribution or not. I went to my Vanguard account, I looked at the transaction register, and by golly, I had done it. So that's something to remember too. If you're not sure whether you take it or not, go look at that transaction register. The other thing, and my final suggestion is, remember Albert Einstein's definition of insanity. Do you remember what that was? And expecting a different result. If you want things to change, you got to change. Anyway, thank you, Anna, for the opportunity to put in my 2 cents.
Always, always, always honored to hear your 2 cents. Well, that's all we got for today's show. We will be doing a larger kind of a presentation on this topic very, very soon, sometime in December. So stay tuned for the announcement of that. We're going to have lots more tips for you. But if there are any particular questions you still have on this topic, we are excited to receive your questions. So let us know what we can answer for you. Otherwise, we will see you next year, right? 2019. We cannot wait for you. Bye, everybody. Thanks for having on.
Bye.